I may stand confidently in front of you, but my past is a wretched one. So I was raised in South Africa during the time of apartheid. My father was an Afrikaner, white South African. His parents were German and Dutch descent. And his father died when he was about 9, 8.5, 9. And his mother was an alcoholic. She was addicted. And in her drunken stupor, my father shared with us sometimes, she sexually abused him as an 8-year-old. And I guess, I don't know how his father died, but when the father died, the drinking got worse and the abuse got worse. And when my father grew up, instead of breaking that cycle of abuse, he did the same to his children. So he was raping my sister from the age of 8 until the age of 16 when she got her period. She got her period very late. And so my mother had convinced him that she would get pregnant if he continues. But there is 8 years between my sister and I. So I was the age that he preferred. And so my mother offered me to my father as a substitute. So it began with me, and I blacked out a lot of it. But thank God, I got my period before I turned 9, so the abuse was not long. I grew up with that. He started with my brother as well, who is 5 years younger than me. My father was obsessed with sex. He was obsessed with having everyone and anyone. So much so that he did not differentiate between children, people's servants, neighbors' wives, even my teacher, my best friend's mother. My father, you could say he was not a racist. He had one woman of every race several times. But we lived under his dominating nature. We lived for the fear of our lives. He kept us like slaves for all the years that we lived with him. And when I turned 15, it was quite some time after I turned 15, I remember that he would go home to his white family. He had a white family, he was married, he had 4 children there. And so every night he would leave us and he would go to them. And he would come back again and pick us up from school and take us home, and he would be with us during that afternoon until late evening, and then he would go again. That was his routine. And so one particular evening, he had a cough, and I remember this so very clearly, and so every night before he left, he would gather us together, and we have to kiss him on the lips and say goodnight and that we love him. It was forced. We had to. Well, we were forced to even call him Daddy. I refused. I called him John. I got into a lot of trouble for that. But he had said that he will no longer pay my school fees if I did not call him Daddy. I thought it was a title that was not earned, and I refused. But I had good teachers. The Lord was looking out for me even then. And I was not a Christian. I would say I did not pray. I thought God wants nothing to do with us because we were born to such a household. Anyway, when I turned 15, we were known to prayer. My grandmother, my grandfather are really strong Adventists on my mother's side. So we knew about praying. We knew about the Bible. We used to visit church, for Easter, Mother's Day, Christmas, some special occasions. And on this particular day, he was sick. He was coughing, and he was calling us to come and say goodbye, and I didn't want to go. And I was in the kitchen, and he came and he said goodbye, and he came to kiss me. And he always licks his lips before giving us a kiss, Sort of like, come. So I turned my face away that day, and he said, what happened to that beautiful 8-year-old girl who was so obedient, who loved to sit on her father's lap? I remember what happened to that girl. Maybe he forgot. So he said, now you are so defiant. Anyway, fine. And he walked out. And I remember that night after he left, I went to the bathroom and I was praying for one of the first times that I can actually remember. And I said to God, I was in such a state. I remember I was naked at this time. I was going to take a shower. And I was even laying down on the bathroom floor. And I prayed to God and I said, can you please remove this man out of our lives? We've had enough. And so, pardon me. And so I asked him, let him fall in love with someone so madly that he just forgets about us altogether. And if you can't do that, let him die. Lo and behold, that evening, late at night, after we had all gone to bed, a number of police cars came into our long driveway. Now, my father used to look for tire tracks on the sand at our gate to know if anyone visited us. No one was allowed to visit without his permission. He would bring men, for my mother to sleep with, and he would watch. But no one was allowed to come when he wasn't there. And so when all these cars showed up, I didn't think they were police cars. I was just thinking, who has shown up now? We will be in trouble tomorrow. He will see these car tracks. So when we looked out the door, we saw that it was police cars. And they marched in. It was white police officers. They had no regard for us because we were non-white. And so they walk into the house and they say, what is your relationship with Mr. Basson? That was my father's surname. My mother said this was now after apartheid had ended. It was in 1997. And October 16, that was the date. And my mother said, I can be considered his common law wife. These are his children. Only my sister and I were there. My brother was sleeping. And he said, well, I've come to inform you. Didn't ask us to sit down, nothing. Mr. Basson died in a car accident tonight. Some car seemed to have smashed into him and he burned to death on the highway. We want his real address. Can you give us his real address? Because they obviously knew we are non-white, so we cannot be his legal family. So in shock, my mother gave the address, and they went there to inform the family that their loved one is gone. We couldn't believe it. I stood in shock, thinking that just moments earlier, I had prayed for his death. I want to tell you today, God answers such prayers. In the chapter that we are dealing with, Isaiah 43, there is a verse that says, I will give people for your life. It says that I will strike down some for you. For those who choose him, God can even kill people. Yes, it's a strange thing for him. I imagine that my father must have died without pain, because that's the God we serve. But he died nonetheless, and he burnt to death in his car. Maybe a foretaste of things to come. But I was redeemed that day. I found myself at the feet of Jesus naked that evening when I prayed. And today I'm standing here to bring you the gospel message. At Jesus' feet, you may renew your passion for God because Jesus accepts you. If you do not have a father or a mother who can take care of you. My mother may have been a victim in this situation, but she too was depraved, and she too had lost her way. And she became a witch doctor in South Africa. We call them sangomas. And instead of giving her life to God after my father died, she went the other way. She went into drugs. She went into prostitution without getting paid. She just wanted to be cared for and loved by someone. So you have a choice. You have a choice. And God says that when you don't have a mother and a father, I will be your mother and your father. You may renew your passion safely at the feet of Jesus because he is a protector that will not harm you.